Hi Math 2 students. Today we are going to go over segments and segment bisectors. All right. So you want to be able to identify and apply properties of midpoints and segment bisectors and identify and apply properties of angle bisectors. All right. So kind of just like keep in your mind whenever you hear the word bisect or midpoint, it means middle. All right. Or cut in half. So here we have a midpoint, okay? A midpoint's a point that divides a segment into two congruent segments. So if we look here, they told us that C is a midpoint. Now, one thing I want to point out is you cannot assume that something's a midpoint unless you're given information that helps you conclude that, all right? So in this case, they blatantly told us C is a midpoint of AB. Okay, so that means that C cuts AB in half. Therefore, what that means is that C is smack dab in the middle of AB. So we know that segment AC is going to be congruent to segment CB. Okay, so that means that this is congruent to that. All right. And then we have a segment bisector. That is a line, ray, or segment that divides a segment into two congruent segments. So in this case, it kind of works similarly. All right, it says GH bisects DF. Okay, so this guy bisects this guy. So what that means is that it's going to cut this guy in half. So actually what we can also conclude from that information, since GH is bisecting DF, we can say that E is a midpoint of DF. All right. Now, one thing I want to point out is notice how I can say it's a midpoint of DF, but I cannot say that it's a midpoint of GF because we have no information on the lengths of HE or GE. But since they told us that this is a segment bisector here, we know that DE is congruent to EF. Therefore, we can say that E is in fact a midpoint of DF. All right. And then the statement we can conclude here is, I guess I could have included that over here. It's okay if you already wrote it in that corner, no big deal. But that's one of the statements we can include here is that E is going to be a midpoint. Additionally, we can say that DE is congruent to EF. All right, we know they're going to be equal. All right, so here for the first example, it says that BD bisects AC. So find the value of X and BC. So again, BD bisects AC. So that means that AC, since it's getting bisected, is going to be the thing that's cut in half. So this is congruent to this. All right. So if we know that this guy is equal to that guy, what we can do is say 6x plus 7 is equal to 9x minus 8. And then we can just solve that. So we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. And we get 7 equals 3x minus 8. We're going to add 8 to both sides. And we get 15 equals 3x. Divide by 3, and we should get that x is equal to 5. All right, so that answers this question for the value of x. Now they're asking me for the value of BC. So what I can do here is take x and go plug it in to figure out what BC is equal to. So if BC is equal to 9x minus 8, if I know that x is 5, I can say that BC is going to be 9 times 5 minus 8, which is going to be 45 minus 8, which is going to give me that BC is equal to 37. All right. Now, one thing I want to point out, if BC is equal to 37, we can also say that AB, or BA, sorry, I wrote it in the wrong order, but it still works, AB or BA, because B is a midpoint, because BD is a bisector, that also has to be 37, okay? Now, what if I asked you the length of AC? So AC is this guy. That's the whole thing. Well, you can add those two up, right? What's 37 plus 37? You get 74. So make sure that you're answering the question that they're asking. They could have asked BC. They could have asked AB. They could have asked AC here. So you got to make sure you look at what they're asking you. All right, so let's go ahead. I want you to give this one a try here. So they tell you that K is the midpoint, which means that it's going to cut this in half. right? It's the midpoint of LM. LM is getting cut in half. So from there, I want you to solve for x. So because we know these two are equal, we can say 11x minus 17 is equal to 9x plus 3. We get all the x's on the same side. We're going to get 2x minus 17 equals 3. We're going to add 17. We get 2x is equal to 20. We divide both sides by 2, and we get that x is equal to 10. Now go ahead and answer the second part of the question. They want you to find the value of LM. So what does LM equal? So if we look here, LM is this whole thing, right? So we actually have to go ahead, plug 10 in, and when we plug in to get like LK, all right, we're going to get 11 times 10 minus 17. So I got 93 here, okay? Because K is a midpoint, we can assume that this is 93 as well. I'm going to go ahead and check that and make sure I didn't mess anything up, and I'm going to plug 10 in and make sure I get 93 for that. So I would do 9 times 10 plus 3. I do get 93, so we're good to go. So basically, I found LK and I found KM. To find LM, the whole thing, I'm going to have to add those two up or multiply by 2. So for LM, I got 186. All right. Let's see. Let's take a look here at example 1. All right, it says true or false, AB is congruent to BC. All right, so if we go ahead and look, AB is equal to 1, 2, 3, and BC is equal to 1, 2, 3. So in that case, yes, we could say that AB is congruent to BC. So we're going to say true. Okay. Then for B, they want to know if BC is congruent to DE. So BC, 1, 2, 3, and DE, 1, 2. Those are not congruent, so this would be false. All right. So for C, it says name the midpoint of AC. So if I look here, AC is this segment from here to here, and they want to know what the midpoint is. So we can see that from A to B, we've got 3. And from B to C, we've got 3. So because both of those segments are congruent and B is equidistant from either endpoint, we could say that B is the midpoint of AC. Now they want us to plot the midpoint of AD. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight AD. This is AD. All right. So what we could do is we can figure out how far A is from D. How long is this segment? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they're 8 away from each other. All right. So we know if we want to plot smack dab in the middle, we want to plot 4 away from either, right? Because if it's 8 in total, we're going to cut it in half. We want to plot 4 away. So if I plot 4 away from A, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets me here. And I'll double check that it works from D. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So that's where I would plot. I would plot the midpoint of AD at -4. All right. Next one. It says that M is the midpoint of AB. So this whole thing is AB, and M is smack dab in the middle. They want us to find the measure of AB and MB. All right. So I think you can do this. Looking at this, and it's as obvious as you think it is, what is the measure of AB? So if we look, AB is this whole thing. If the whole thing's 26, AB is 26. All right, what's the measure of MB? Well, since we know that M is the midpoint, it's cutting this in half, right? We know that this would have to be 13, and this would have to be 13. You would just do 26 divided by 2, so MB would be 13. All right, next one. It says that P is the midpoint of RS. All right. And they want us to find RS. So go ahead, give that one a shot. RS is this whole thing, and we know that from here to here, it's 7, okay? And P is the midpoint, so what is the measure of RS? So for RS, you should get 14, because PS is 7, right? And RS is the whole thing. You just add those up, you should get 14.